So I'm going to talk about conversational clothing and model citizens today. So I would first advise everyone here to turn off the academic parts of their brain, the visionary parts of their brain. Those are, we don't need them for the next 10 minutes. Activists, please stop. Everyone needs to access the funny clothing part of their brains because it exists in all of us. And essentially that's the entire premise with which my clothing brands are made. I'm a fashion designer. I never thought about clothing much at all before I started the company. I'd never made anything before. I just had a dumb idea. And I acted upon that dumb idea. And it became a celebrated article of clothing online. So what I did is I built an entire clothing company around social experience in clothing. So I'll take you through how this came to be and what makes products social. Okay, so this is important. At last, it's fashionably drunk and out of focus. It's fashionably blurry and overweight. It's fashionably look like an idiot. Thank you, Internet. What we're most interested in my clothing company right now is how to turn everybody on Earth into models. So this isn't just the square-jawed Scandinavian people you normally see in magazines. That's the millions of people who actually own clothing, who happen to own digital cameras, and how to turn those people into models. So this is how it all began with me. I started to think about what was affordable about clothing. And the reason why is because I started a clothing company called Corduroys. I made horizontal corduroy pants about 7 years ago. And innovative stuff. And my background beforehand, I had worked in technology, but I was also a TV writer. And I started coming up with all kinds of jokes about these clothing. And I was like, well, what if there's a pair of pants that you own that actually have like a new joke to tell about them every few weeks? And that's how I started off. And I started sending out newsletters. And these newsletters were open 40% of the time they were received, which is a staggeringly high number in the e-commerce world. And the reason why is I had a commitment that it would be 99% fiction and 1% fashion in each of these stories. So it wasn't just a blatant call for you to buy something. It was really more kind of like a stupid pause in your day at work to come up with a news story about the article of clothing you already own. This led to a clothing company that was based on the idea that we wouldn't operate like a normal clothing company that puts things out seasonally. We'd operate more like a blog. And so it goes back to the conversation earlier about how bloggers have changed fashion. Well, I started in San Francisco, and I had no background in fashion. My entire social network of people who worked in technology. So for me, it seemed strange that the clothing industry would only put out products on a seasonal basis. And I was like, online, people want to pay attention to something new every day. So what if you were to stretch out the design calendar that normally peaks in February and in August, and you were just do that all year long? Sorry, we said that one again. I'll continue on. So this is the first product I had. They were quarter-rounds, and the joke that I made is I knew that I could never compete with Ralph Lauren in taking a photo of a very good-looking guy wearing a great-looking pair of pants. So I started to talk about the aerodynamics of quarter-rounds and how they would lower your crotch index because of the fact that there'd be less friction between your legs. And believe it or not, as everybody knows, that stuff's going to go a lot further on the internet than just a good-looking picture of a model. The next great product that I have that got a lot of attention is I figured it'd be funny if a person could actually be the black sheep of the family, but also wear a sheet made only of black sheep's wool. So I traveled to Ireland and found a mill that would actually isolate the natural dark sheep's wool from the white and make sweaters out of that. So this really appealed to all the self-styled iconoclast black sheep of the family on the internet, and they sold great, and they continue to sell great. And you can still buy them at betabrand.com. So the next product innovation I had, I noticed that all kinds of people were cycling to work now, and that there was no pants that were made specifically for the task of cycling for a couple miles. So I created pants that had fun, deployable, reflective things. As you can see, the ass comes a reflective stripe like this, and you can roll up the cuffs to make it reflectable, which makes you this supernova as you bike down the road. Well, the great thing about that, I discovered, is that all bikers are bloggers and vice versa. And these pants, you gotta remember, I had nothing for a marketing budget when this started. They were written about something like 100,000 times online. So it found the audience for me. And also, there was really never any clothing stores that were bike stores. There were no bike stores that really sold clothing. They only sold bike stuff. So I created a market for that stuff online. And as it turns out, so many bikers are into the internet, they bought tons of them. The next great controversial product was the Veg Soft Blanket. And in order to do so, I went back into my pseudoscientific roots, and I imagined a subatomic world of softness, and the spectrum softometer that would actually measure these things by each other. So you see that at long last, someone was capable of fabricating a fabric that was softer than the anus of a silkworm. And as you can imagine, you're going to sell something online. Discussing things like the softness of an anus of a silkworm really lends itself to social media. So from all this, I have a clothing company. I'm receiving tons of photos of people wearing our products and putting them up. And as you would expect, 80% of the images that you receive are not that good, but 20% are great. But for those 80% of the people, I was like, well, those people still have great stuff too, and they're nice enough to send it to me. So I built an application for Beta Brand that would allow anyone with any photo that they have to be the principal model of any page on our site for their friends to enjoy, which opened up the Pandora's box of social sharing. It's been wonderful. We put that out last summer, and so far about 2,500 people have sent in pictures of themselves. And what's great about that is each of those pictures get about 20 views a piece. So slowly but surely, I'm not really having to advertise much anymore and let my customers do that for me, which is a lot more fun, and personally, I think is great because it allows me, with limited resources and limited friends and neighbors that I can use as my models, to then expand this to an entire universe of people who really want to be models. And what's great is that as that library of photos grows, it allows us to be able to present very different looks and feels of the websites to people who care about that. I would assure you that there's no fat red-headed model that you will ever find in any regular clothing company's catalog, but at Beta Brand you will. And if you happen to be a person that looks that way, soon enough, you'll be able to look at clothing through that view because of the fact that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are submitting to this catalog. So the premise there is that with digital photos plus cheap storage and social networks equals the infinite clothing catalog. I have a clothing catalog that only has about 60 items, but I have more photos, I guarantee you, than Ralph Lauren does have online. And as we grow and grow and grow, it's going to look something that's a lot more like Flickr. You can actually buy stuff. So it's been a very fun thing for us to start this clothing company and sort of say the premise here is build it as big as we possibly can with the content that people submit to it, and then all of a sudden you have a very different shopping experience. We make pants that are made out of this disco fabric that became the Nikes of Burning Man basically last year because of the fact that they were positively stupid, but also very fun to wear in those situations. The beauty is that that product has now found its way onto the golf course. It's now found its way into 4 minutes. It's now found its way into bachelor parties, and it continues to grow. I was just speaking with a gentleman in New York. We're opening up a social space for disco pants in February, where you're actually going to be able to get 15 minutes of time in this sort of airlocked disco laboratory when you buy them. So this is going to be like a 3-week installation. But the beauty of having products online and having customers that are really into them is you can take a pretty asinine pair of pants and grow a vast, excited community around this where they're actually creating artistic expression from it. And then you can display this. Perhaps someone's looking at my website. Anyhow, I think that's about it. I think what's interesting for everyone's experience here is that I've gone about solving a problem with no background in the world of fashion, nor any exposure to the real fashion industry at all. I can tell you, I've interacted with people that are far more like you than anyone who knows anything about clothing. And it's a strange thing that I've been at it for 7 years now, and I still have yet to meet like real fashion industry people. And it's nice that you can exist completely outside of an industry, yet actually have some influence on it as a complete outsider. Anyhow, very nice to talk to you. It really is an honor.
All right, questions?
If you want to pitch any dumb fashion ideas, I'm all for it. We actually do make our customers clothing makers. Yes?
So I would see, if my friend submitted a picture to you, I would be more likely to see their picture when I looked at your product page because you're tracking my social connections through Facebook.
I mean, it's still pretty rudimentary. It literally is we just generate a unique URL and slot that photo in first for anyone to see. So you're given a URL where you are the lead model.
Oh, so I would send that around to my friends.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
I really want boxer briefs that have a pocket for my cell phone for when I'm feeling to get home.
Okay. We explore those worlds often. And, so the thing about that is, everyone has ideas about clothing, and we try as quickly as we can to generate brand new ideas. And we put out 2 a week. And as it turns out, the minimums are the real issue in making cool clothing ideas. As anyone in the inventing cool new fashion ideas can tell you, that would probably take about a week and a half to prototype, and we could put it up online in 2-3 weeks. And then if people liked it, we could make hundreds of them. And so I would just ask you to wait about 6 to 9 months. We're still growing to the point where I could then literally take anybody's ideas and make them into clothing. We just need to get about to minimums of about 500 items, and then you can pretty much make anything. Oh, yes?
What item is it you said no to?
So right now, honestly, we're becoming the clothing brand where anybody can send an idea that's good enough and we'll make it. So far, it really is us sitting around more editorially saying, what makes for a good fashion forwardable story on the internet, and how can we make those things as quickly as possible? So we really don't say no to anything. Sometimes we put things up as think tanks online, and nobody really likes them. And those things we end up saying no to. But so far, it's just about everything. Yes?
What's your process for manufacturing?
We manufacture most everything in San Francisco. And there's kind of this leap that occurs, right? If it's a successful idea, and we can sell thousands of them, then we'll start considering making the product. But it's a good thing for local design and local fashion, because you really need to make things as close to the market as possible if you want the ideas to be as fresh as possible. Yes?
Do you ever just put up like a story for something that you really haven't made yet, and then it's like backordered 3 weeks, and if anybody happens to like the boxer shorts with this element on it?
Yeah, good story with that one. We have these pants that we put out for 4th of July. They're made out of stars and stripes, and they're really dumb looking, and people love them. And so someone came in saying, hey, you ever thought about making more products out of that? Someone was saying, I'd love it if I had like an apron out of that. And at the time, I was like, a lot of people would do that. But I was like, but I'll make a capron for you. So we created a cape apron hybrid. And that one, we actually just put a sketch up on our site. And the demand was so great for it that 3 weeks later, we're selling it on 4th of July. And Regis and Kelly are wearing it while cooking on TV. And that was about a 2.5, 3 week turnaround. So the capron is a perfect example of a sketch that quickly became a consumable product. And that's what's nice about soft goods. I mean, you really can go from brainstorm to something people are buying in 3 to 4 weeks' time.
All right, thank you so much, Chris.